Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Kia ora, Bull fam. It's the director. Chargers fans, we got some money. We got some money to spend. $35 million. It came off the back of some big moves that we've been talking about the last couple of months, right? Of course, the heartbreak of losing Mike Williams, Keenan Allen is one that's going to be felt throughout the Chargers fandom. However, reality of the situation, we got some money out of it. The Chargers, who still have some needs, do have available free agents that we could be targeting at this point, especially in this year, man, where you're going to want every draft pick possible. Free those up for skill-based players that would be more expensive at those positions. If you can go out there and grab some depth guys, maybe even grab a starter or two in free agency to free up what you're doing in the draft, that'd be great. I don't at any point want to feel like our backs are against the wall to be having a draft for need. I want best player available. Now, the question is it too little too late with the money? It's been picked clean out there, man. Free agency isn't what it was just a couple of weeks ago. The Chargers, maybe less options. I still will say do have options. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the free agents I would be signing. I don't know if you guys have been following my short form content. We've been putting out the shorts on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. One of those, we actually predicted the Denzel Perryman and Bradley Bozeman signings. Of course, we still got one more that we're hoping to hit on there. Today, I do have a list of names of guys that I think the Chargers would definitely be worth signing, even at this point in free agency. So before we do kick off, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action. Great way to support the channel. Have some fun along the way. Newcomers take advantage of the special on-screen joke kick. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take the like, sub, bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into these free agents. Lights, camera,
Action!
My remaining free agents that the Chargers probably need to target right now. Would love to see a lot of these guys back, or to say on the roster. Yeah, he caught me. Back on the roster before the NFL draft. Give us a little bit more freedom out there. Now, we're going to play a little bit of game with this, okay? I know Director likes to play games. I do. Okay, it's fun. I have a list of guys in here, and I'm not going to say 100% of them are guys that I would sign. We're going to play a little game as to whether or not I would be comfortable going in, even if it's a little contract, on a certain player. So not every player you're going to see on screen is going to be one that I want. We're going to give you guys a little breakdown, and I'll let you know whether or not it's a guy I would like to see on the roster. You guys can play along in the comment section below. Let me know some of these guys and maybe some additional free agents you would be targeting. Let's go ahead and start with Joshua Kelly. Okay, we're going to go through position by position. Okay, obviously we don't need a quarterback, so let's go to running back. Josh Kelly, I think at this point, in terms of free agency and what we're looking at potentially in the draft at the running back position, which is so important in the Jim Harbaugh / Greg Roman offense, maybe not a bad idea to get some familiarity in the building. Okay, a couple of ways to do that. One, you go with Joshua Kelly, who's been kind of a project since the Anthony Lynn days. Developed into a pretty decent backup, I would say, the past couple of seasons. A lot of us wrote him off a little bit early. But he does bring a little bit of the juice. He brings a little bit of the pass catching, which I like a lot, too, from running back 2. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons I want to see Joshua Kelly back with the Chargers. Give us a little bit of versatility in terms of a backup running back position, while also having a bit of oomph to throw him into a Gus Edwards kind of situation when asked to do so. So Joshua Kelly, I will say I am in on this player. I would like to see him back with the team if possible. And again, I'll give you guys a spitball guess of what these guys will be earning with the team. I would be guessing at running back especially, it'd be somewhere in the minimums, like maybe a year, 2 years tops, like $1.5 million a season. I don't know. Again, I'm no expert on the cap, but it would seem like it would be a very cheap option for the Chargers to pursue. Next up at running back, J.K. Dobbins, just like I was talking about with Joshua Kelly, a little familiarity would go a long way, right? In this, not rebuild, but retooling of the offense. We're going to be reshaping it certainly into a different, more run balance, maybe power run sort of scheme. And J.K. Dobbins does have a foot in that world that we're going to be borrowing from with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, of course, we already got Gus Edwards. This duo was certainly very good when they were both healthy with Baltimore. The question is health. Would J.K. Dobbins be worth the health injury risk, I should say, by signing him even to a smaller contract. I would say if the number is right, I'm kind of in on it. Okay, if you need another running back and you don't want to strain yourself as to who you're grabbing in this particular draft class, because this class has got some okay guys in it, but definitely not my favorite running back class. Definitely some dudes I would take in the first couple of days in the draft. JK at like a minimum of like $1.5 million. I think I'd be good with taking a shot on, because let's remember, JK is a fantastic talent. Just can't stay on the field. Even the slightest chance that he could would bring a lot of value to the Chargers at like pretty much a vet minimum, in terms of contract compensation. So J.K. Dobbins, I'm in on. I think it would be not a bad option. Lastly, we got Matt Breida, who I'm actually not sure the health risks are here. I remember him being injured once or twice back in his days with the 49ers. I think most recently the New York Giants. But Breida, what he would bring again is a little bit of a different flavor. More of your speedy back zone guy. Would complement JK a little bit too. I think in terms of, pass catching, brings a little bit of that to the table as well. And certainly the speed. The speed is something very exciting to think about there too. So with Breida, maybe I'd be okay with him. But quite honestly, out of the three, I think I'm kind of leaning towards Joshua Kelly, if I'm being honest. He kind of brings the package of skill sets that I'm looking for, a little bit of that hybrid between him and Gus Edwards, as well as the pass catching on top of that. I think that's going to be my guy for the running back position. All right. So moving on. Let's move on to the fullbacks real quick. We just got to touch on this real quick, okay? This man's name right here is Ben Mason. I don't know if you guys are familiar. He's an on-again, off-again fullback in the NFL, most recently with the Baltimore Ravens. That being said, do we need to hear more? Chargers really haven't had a fullback utilized in a while. Xander Horvath is a guy I was really excited about, but he didn't really turn into much with the Chargers. Ben Mason has a foot in the Michigan system with Jim Harbaugh. He's got a foot in the Baltimore system with John Harbaugh. Chargers are likely going to be utilizing a fullback quite frequently in this season, obviously moving into some more power run. I would bring this cat in, man. He's got foot in pretty much every program that the Harbaughs have touched, and we're going to be needing a guy with his skill set. Sure, there's been some talk, at least from me, alone playing Madden, like, what if we just drafted a guy? Maybe we could draft a guy, but I think Ben Mason's just kind of a safer bet that would really be a cheap option for the Chargers. I'm talking in the hundreds of thousands, not in the millions, potentially, for a Ben Mason to be added this offseason. Let's move into a position that I think a lot of people are starting to, I wouldn't say panic on, but really pay a lot of attention to in terms of maybe it's time to bring in some veterans, man, to help round things out. That's going to be wide receiver, okay? Obviously, there's been some movement here for the Chargers. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, both these guys gone. The wide receiver room in the Chargers in Los Angeles just looks pretty pitiful, if you're asking me. Probably one of the worst we're going to see in the NFL. And again, this is no slight to Josh Palmer. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's still got a lot of potential to be a big part of this offense in the future. But Quentin Johnson left a lot to be desired. And then you got a specialist in Darius Davis. Outside, really nobody. And right now, even though the Chargers have a pretty good shot at picking up one of the best wide receivers in the history of the NFL draft, maybe not a bad idea to bring in some veteran presence as well to help round out some of these younger players, including Quentin Johnston. Enter Odell Beckham Jr., who, once again, we are pulling from the inspiration of the Baltimore Ravens. He's kind of had a foot in every franchise. You could almost say he's scheme and system proof. And he does, I think, at this point, bring the veteran presence that we're looking for. He has a big enough name where players will respect him. And also, I think, enough humility at this point where it was kind of hot-headed to start his career with the Giants and even the Cleveland Browns. He kind of has settled into a more humble player that I think could bring a leadership role to the locker room, which is kind of weird to say about Odell Beckham Jr., but it kind of shows how far he's come since then. Could he bring a little bit of value in terms of receiving? I do think so. He would bring maybe a bit of an okay stable target or for Justin Herbert, but in the end, that veteran presence I think is something that would really help the young guys out. Even if the Chargers do decide to draft two wide receivers, which I'm very much so in favor of, Odell helps smooth out some of that learning curve in terms of his leadership and contribution at wide receiver right away. What's another wide receiver we're looking at? Well, it's been kind of going around the rumor mill that Michael Gallup could be a guy that we target because of the resemblance that he has in play to Mike Williams. Mike Williams being that 50-50 contested ball kind of guy, Michael Gallup can share some of those traits. I wouldn't say nearly as good as Mike Williams, but I've seen some pretty big plays from number 13 out there. That being said, a lot of injuries behind him, right? And I think in terms of wide receiver, maybe doesn't fit the role that I'm looking for in terms of a vet. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on Michael Gallup. Now I'm going to go ahead and say this real quick before we move on to the next guy. I think I forgot one of the slides here. I do apologize. Hunter Renfrow, another guy that's been thrown around by Chargers fans a lot. And I think it's for obvious reasons, right? You're going to want a guy in the slot. You're going to want a guy that has a little bit of a Keenan role. As a matter of fact, I think the Raiders and their fan base even said third in Renfrow all the time, just as we said third in Keenan. Of course, he's not going to get anywhere near to Keenan's level. He could provide a bit of consistency in terms of that reliable target that Justin Herbert's become acquainted to. Maybe it's worth a shot. I don't know. I would say yes on Hunter Renfrow and Odell Beckham so far. No on Michael Gallup. Next up, we got a guy in Tyler Boyd. That Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver room's looked really good for a long time. Might be shaken up a little bit this season, but Boyd is certainly going to be a nice option, I think, out there for a depth wide receiver. Wide receiver 3, 4, maybe even 2 for a lot of people out there. I think Boyd's a solid option. I think he brings enough veteran presence, but I think he brings a bit more in terms of contribution that I would be excited about this season. So I'm going to say yes on Tyler Boyd. I think that's not a bad idea in terms of a veteran guy and a dude that can contribute right away. Help smooth things out with the rookies. Contribute right away with Justin Herbert. So I like Tyler Boyd. I think that's a good one. Finally, last couple of guys here. Chase Claypool, who's had an up and down start to his young career. I think he came out of Texas, right? Boomed with the Steelers and then kind of fell off when traded to the Chicago Bears, which I think he kind of comes, with the territory. Was it the Bears or the Dolphins first? I don't know. Kind of a lot of teams in that short amount of time. Heard maybe there's a bit of drama in the locker room, though. Even though he does bring a bit of talent in terms of contested catches, again, the Mike Williams kind of role. I think there's too many maybe red flags and question marks for me to feel comfortable in a signing like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on Chase Claypool. I think that it potentially could bring a nice option to the Chargers offense. I just don't know if I want the drama revolving potentially what could be that signing. And then finally, Mecole Hardman being another guy who recently has a bit of drama behind him. You guys remember when he was with the New York Jets for that short little stint? They wanted to grab that speed for Aaron Rodgers. There was rumors that he was leaking information to the Chiefs in terms of the Jets' game plan. I really don't know if there's any validity behind that. I think that would be a much bigger story if it was confirmed to be true, and I think the banhammer would have been brought down a long time ago if that was something that was seriously being taken seriously by the league. Even if the allegations aren't true, I think Mecole's an okay option to add some speed, which the Chargers desperately need, and again, veteran. So this was kind of a question mark for me. I kind of do want him. The allegations do turn me off of it a little bit, but part of me feels like that's probably not the case. Maybe there's some bad blood there spreading rumors around. Even so, Chargers do need speed. I'll say a maybe on Mecole Hardman. Either way, you guys let me know in the comment section below. Wide receiver, where are you at? Who do you want? Pickings are slim. Once again, I think in terms of the guy that I would sign, it would probably be Odell Beckham Jr. I think Odell is the guy that I would want. Sure, he might be a little expensive, but it wouldn't be any more than, I think, $12 million, maybe even lower than 10. There's speculation that it could be as low as 7. And at that point, the veteran leadership, the familiarity with system and scheme, it just kind of feels right. Tyler Boyd is kind of a close second for me as well. I will add that. I think Tyler Boyd's not a bad idea. All right, next up, a tight end. Not applicable. I think the Chargers got a couple of nice ones. Have a chance to get one in the draft. I would maybe wait until afterwards to see what's available after we decide maybe on a rookie or not. Now, the next up, offensive line. And this is a pretty interesting one to me because as I got looking at some of the prospects, I thought to myself, no way, right? I don't want an offensive lineman so long as there's a chance that we could possibly be signing one in this very, very deep draft in 2024. That being said, maybe signing a guy in terms of like swing, in terms of like, better scheme fit, maybe that frees us up a little bit more in the draft, right? Of course, I wouldn't wipe away. Let me be clear. Assigning an offensive line wouldn't wipe away the idea of getting a guy like Jackson Powers-Johnson, Zach Frazier, and then on the outside, of course, Joe Alt and and Latham. It's not going to stop you from doing that. However, maybe making a signing helps you be a little bit more flexible, right? And I think there's a couple of guys that I kind of looked at. Mekhi Becton being one of them. Okay, everybody calm down. I get it. Mekhi Becton, up and down, big injury risk, yada, yada, yada. I think outside of it was 2 years ago, that full season that was wiped away, he's looked okay in terms of his availability, right? I think he even played 16 games last season, which is pretty impressive considering the injury previous. The biggest reason I'm kind of looking at Mekhi Becton, though, is because right now he's projected a super cheap contract considering all the red flags revolving around his name. I'm talking like a year, $5 million or less. Okay, that all of a sudden got my attention a little bit. Secondly, right tackle right now is in kind of an up and down swing. and swing being a very important word there as well. Maybe a Mekhi Becton, who would very much so fit a power run system, would not be a bad gamble here. For one, let's say the Chargers do decide to go out and draft a right tackle. Trey Pipkins, if you release him after June 1st, because again, the position will be a little bit crowded if you draft a guy, sign Mekhi, and you have Trey Pipkins there. If you were to release Trey Pipkins after June 1st, you would be saving quite a bit of money. Okay, I think you still have dead cap of like $2.5 million, but you'd be saving like another $6 million or something like that. I don't have the numbers in front of me. That offers you a little bit of flexibility if you want to sign somebody. Mekhi Becton, let's say the scenario shakes out like that we sign Mekhi Becton. Let's say we go out and get like a 3rd or 4th round right tackle that we like a lot, that we want to develop. You could still do that. And if Mekhi gets hurt, then you got the guy in terms of rookie that you were high on anyway to step in and help protect on that right side, help introduce a new system in terms of power run. It kind of seems like an okay bet to me, okay? So I'm going to say Mekhi Becton's kind of a maybe for me, especially if that price tag is so low. Might as well take a shot on a dude that was one of the best run defenders before his injury and just kind of roll the dice, see what you got there. Because again, this is one of those few opportunities where you can get a premium position like tackle at such a huge discount with such big upside. And being a big, offensive line guy in the Harbaugh and Roman system, it just feels like Becton would be an awesome fit. The dude's massive, right? Just a tower of a human being. But that's just me. A lot of people would say no, like don't even waste the $4 or $5 million that it would take to get him on the roster just because of the injury history. And that again there's a bit of time between him and that missed season already. Okay. The other guy that's kind of been looked at in the past couple of days, as a matter of fact, we shared this information on Twitter a few days ago. Andre Dillard. There's a bit of speculation of his involvement with the Chargers, and this is a guy that, again, I get it. Has a couple up and down seasons, hasn't looked great. The availability, I think 2 years ago, scares us a little bit, but he had a couple of pretty good years before that. And again, when you're entering into the fold with the Chargers, who kind of have some superhuman-minded coaches that could certainly elevate the offensive line, maybe Dillard's not a bad idea in terms of swing. Okay, I know Trey, and again, this is kind of where you have the two options here. You got a guy like Mekhi Becton who can step in and be the starter. You got a backup and a rookie. If you want to roll in with Trey Pipkins, Dillard's not a bad swing, in my opinion. If you need a guy before the draft, you could do a little bit worse than Andre Dillard at this point. Would I grab him? I'm leaning towards no, because I want to see what happens in the draft. I'm leaning towards no for both of these guys. But Mekhi Becton, for that price and that upside, does intrigue me a little bit, okay? Dramatic, maybe controversial part, over. Let's move on to the next position group here. The Chargers, and this is a very important one. We're moving into the defensive line, or the defensive side of the ball now. Let's talk corner. This is, outside of wide receiver, probably the biggest need on this team. If you guys didn't catch my episode on Bleacher Report this morning, we talked about the biggest team needs in terms of position. Corner was number 2 for me. Wide receiver at 1, corner at 2. This is sneakily one of the biggest needs on the team that's not getting enough press. We need a guy. And unfortunately, I don't know if the Chargers will have the luxury of picking up a corner in the first round, especially if we need a wide receiver so desperately and we want to stick and pick, get a guy like Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. I think free agency, it's a good idea. It's a really good idea to go get a guy right now, especially while some of the top guys are still available. One of the top guys, period, in terms of corner is still there, in Stefon Gilmore. I know he's older. I know people don't like that. You guys want to get younger. I understand that. I completely get it. But Stefon Gilmore is exactly what you're kind of looking for right now. A short-term rental. He'd have 1, maybe 2 years tops with the Chargers, who's still performing at a high level. Okay, kind of feels like the Keenan Allen of the defense. He's done great, man. And every time we think that he's done, with the Colts and the Cowboys, he just goes out and proves everybody wrong. And if you can do that 1 more year, right, on a cheaper deal, which it wouldn't cost a lot to get Gilmore, I'm about it. I really am. We need a perimeter guy bad. We need a guy that's, I don't know, he can play him pretty much anywhere. We need somebody out there pretty bad. And I think Stefon Gilmore really offers that flexibility that you need for the next couple. Even if we Chargers do draft a guy this season, we still would need another one. We'd need a nickel, right? If we drafted an outside guy, let's say we get lucky and we get Quinion, Mitchell or something, if we do trade down in the first round, or maybe say we get really lucky and we get like a Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second round, right? That would be awesome. We would still need another guy, dudes. And I think Stefon Gilmore just buys you enough time to fix that position in the next couple of seasons. So I'm in on Stefon Gilmore. I think he provides exactly what I'm looking for. What about this guy, Rock Ya-Sin, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, I think Raiders before that. Flat out, I'm just going to tell you guys I'm in on this guy too. He's decent, right? He's decent. He's not going to flash. He's not going to be this huge playmaker. I mean, maybe sometimes, but for the most part, he's just a solid corner that's not going to cost a lot of money, even though we can afford it at this point. It has familiarity in the Ravens defense. And again, we're kind of looking for as much of that as we possibly can at this point. So Rock Ya-Sin, I'm in on him. He'll be an overall solid dude. Not too old, not too young. Familiarity in system. I like it a lot. Okay. Finally, last couple of two here. Adarius Jackson. This one kind of intrigues me. I want to say yes to Adoree because I don't know if you guys know this. He went through extensive training last season to transition to the slot. Okay. They wanted to put him out from the outside to the slot. And then eventually, very quickly, I might add, the New York Giants gave up on that idea really quick. I don't know if it's because of his lack of execution or his lack of production in the slot role, but after like a week or two, he was back on the outside. And he had a pretty rough season, I would say, because of it. It kind of knocked him off course. That's my opinion. That being said, I like the fact that he was training to operate the slot. The dude went crazy in the gym trying to, get better at his run defense and his run support to better fit that slot role. I wouldn't be opposed to taking a shot on him. Is he my favorite on this list? No, but he is versatile enough, right? The guy can play safety. The guy can play corner, outside, inside. I'm kind of about it, and I don't know how expensive he would be. I would imagine not too. I would say maybe. I'd say maybe on Adarius Jackson. Finally, another guy that's been kind of rumored to the Chargers. A couple of Tennessee Titans at this point. Christian Fulton. Let me be clear in saying that, let me start off, I should say, by saying that I like Christian Fulton. I've always kind of liked his game and coming into the NFL, and unfortunately, it kind of fell off the past couple of seasons. I think there was an injury involved, I don't remember. But he definitely has had some ups and downs. I think his upside is enough for me to be okay with it if the Chargers do decide to, in fact, sign him. But for me personally, I think I would pass. With the other corners that are currently available, I think my priority would be Stefon Gilmore for sure. Rock Ya-Sin is a great consolation prize. Adarius Jackson's pretty good. I think I would even go guys like Trey White, who again, I would love the player, but Trey White's injury plus what he would probably cost kind of turns me off of him. And then maybe even Xavier Howard, who had that one superstar season and that was kind of okay after that. I think I would kind of go towards those names more than a guy like Christian Fulton. But you guys let me know. I wouldn't hate it, but I think there's better options out there. Finally, the last couple of positions. This one's huge, and I wish there was more options. I should actually say that. I'm saving that for now. I got a little ahead of myself. Sorry. Safety. Almost went right past it because I don't see it as a huge need right now outside of like a guy that you can swap in and out with Derwin James, because Derwin's going to be moving around. You're going to need a guy to patrol up top still. Love Eddie Jackson in that role because you can even play him in the box a little bit if you want him to, and he kind of has gone overlooked. I love Eddie Jackson, dude. This dude's been an awesome player for Chicago for a long time. I don't know what happened. Did he get hurt? I haven't looked into it enough. I'm sorry, everybody. I let you down. I just want to know why in the heck Eddie Jackson hasn't been talked more about. I love this player. He's a dog. He's physical. He's good in coverage. I would be very happy. I would be very happy with Eddie Jackson on the Chargers as that kind of Derwin relief role, guy that plays in box a little bit. I don't know. Eddie, again, we can live without him for sure. We don't really have a huge need of linebacker. It'd be more of a luxury signing. At this point, if you got the money, maybe it's worth it. But Eddie Jackson would be fantastic. Okay. Now, as I was getting ahead of myself, linebacker, super important for this system. Chargers have made a couple of signings. I think it was Troy Dye, was that his name? Denzel Perryman. We got Dan Henley in there. Might even go out there and draft a guy. Not the best linebacker class, I'll be honest. Outside of like a few dudes, Peyton Wilson, Junior Colson, there's a few dudes that I would be like, okay, we got our guy for Jesse Menders, including Colson, who's from the Michigan system already. The fact is, though, there's no guarantee that we land one of those guys. And there's going to be a lot of teams vying for one of those linebackers because it is an important position and across the board for everybody, especially when it comes to coverage. That being said, not a lot of guys out there that I'm super psyched about for the Chargers to add. Like, the only guy that kind of sticks out to me a little bit is Isaiah Simmons, which, let's be honest, may be one of the biggest whiffs on my channel's career and Chargers fans in terms of him versus Justin Herbert. Either way, he's really fallen off the map because of his lack of run D. His run support is not great. He's a hybrid linebacker safety, or I should say hybrid safety linebacker, okay? And he's been played in the box a lot in terms of now he's a linebacker in the eyes of the NFL. His lack of run support has really turned teams off. However, I will say Simmons is exceptional in coverage. He's very good at linebacker. Very, very good. Like, if you were to add him to the Chargers right now, he'd be one of the best coverage linebackers we've had in a long time. He'd be amazing. Just a lot of teams don't want to risk the lack of run support from your linebacker position group. So, I mean, it's a maybe for me. I'm probably leaning towards no. Let's see what happens in the draft, and then kind of hope that the Denzel and Henley thing kind of work out for this season. All right? Last couple position groups, edge, Chargers looking pretty good now that we got Joey and Khalil Mack back. If we were to sign a guy, it'd be purely for depth or rotation in different situations, like Clowney, who's going to be a little bit better in run defense in some situations. Am I in on Clowney? Not really. I think at one point I was, and that was when we were thinking that we'd be without Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack. At this point, now that we have both back, definitely not a guy that I'm looking to sign at a high price point. There is one guy that I still like, though, however, in terms of a rotation guy and a couple of different fronts. And I think Kyle Venoy is such an intelligent add this season for two reasons. One, you're adding depth at edge, which is fantastic. And he was productive in Baltimore. Would he take a role as a backup behind, a guy that rotates in with Thule and Khalil and these guys, maybe he's at that point in his veteran career that he would want to do that. But why I love Kyle Venoy is his versatility, because this dude does play over the middle a lot as well. So the Chargers add a little bit of depth in terms of middle linebacker and edge with one signing in Kyle Venoy, who has a foot in the Ravens system as well as the Chargers system. It just feels like a very intelligent signing. That's going to cost you like $3 million. Okay, so Kyle Venoy to me is still a yes. I kind of like that. You're getting yourself some quality depth at different positions with one signing. And then finally at defensive line, I honestly don't know where to go here, man. This is one of those position groups that I think got gobbled up really quickly. I think it's a position that we needed really badly. We did get Poona Ford, which is fantastic. He would have been one of those late guys that I would have wanted anyway. But he's not going to completely solve that position for you. The Chargers are going to need help. Right now, it feels like the draft is still the best option for them. There's still some guys that you can get in the 4th, 5th round that could fill in okay. But the only guy that I'm kind of looking at to kind of help, maybe pass rush from the interior is Yannick Ngakoue. And even then, I'm not completely sold. I'm going to say a pass on Yannick. And then in terms of the position group entirely, probably better off just looking at the draft. So with that being said, you guys in the comment section below, let me know some of your favorites from this list. These are some of the best that I was able to kind of pick out. Maybe there's some sleepers in there that you guys know that I don't. Definitely please leave those in the comment section below. But in terms of free agency, the Chargers do have the money to spend. We've got positions that we need to fill. If it were me making the signings right now, the guys that I would be signing in terms of priority are Stefon Gilmore. You could even convince me to go out there and get a Christian Fulton on top of that, just for depth. I would be getting Odell Beckham Jr., and if that's not a possibility, I think I do kind of like Hunter Renfrow or Tyler Boyd a lot. And then I'd also be signing a guy like Josh Kelly. I think and Ben Mason too, the fullback. At that point, I think we're looking pretty good going into the draft. But corner is certainly the one where I'm kind of like, I'm circling corner and wide receiver. I'm circling it, I'm bolding it, I'm highlighting it, I'm underlining it. Get some help in there right away. Stefon Gilmore, I mean, you guys got to think about this. What the Chargers secondary looks like right now going into the draft versus if you have Stefon Gilmore at corner 1 or 2, it's vastly different. Please, let's get a guy in there. I'll take Rock Ya-Sin as well. Either one of those guys, and I'm very happy. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and let's welcome in the wagon for Stefon Gilmore.